Yeah?
Okay.
No. Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
All right. Here's the hot tub. I'm just going to try and run through some basic things. How we open and close it, the basic controls on it, a little bit of some issues just with some jets and whatnot, and then we'll go through stuff if you need to treat it. So generally, we just usually open one half of it. Just sit in this half, and that works fine for us. However, if you want to open the whole way, you can do that. Notice there's a bar here across the top. That bar actually supports it so that you can't open it all the way, and it will hold the lid on this side. So, as you can see, take a look in the hot tub. Now, if you notice, there's areas like right here, these white jets. Any place you notice that, that means the jet is actually fallen out, so they're not functioning properly. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. It just means it won't give you the regular jet experience. It's just going to kind of gently push water out. Normally, these two little levers here on either side, if you flip them, they're supposed to add air to the jets. So there's one there and one here. I don't know that they're functioning anymore because of the jet problem. The last big control, this would flip the jets from one set to the other. So anyway, you can maybe don't change that. Then if you come around, I'll show you the buttons on the jet. Okay. All right. Basic function. This just basically tells you what the temperature is. It goes as high as 104. Occasionally it will say 105, but it's not actually set to go any higher than 104. Typically we keep it between 100 and 104. So first button here activates the jets. It'll turn it on higher. And then if you push it a second time, it'll put it on low jets. And those low jets are the same jets that come on automatically when it's heating. And then of course that means it off.
And turns off.
It runs for 20 minutes before turning off. So if you want to start again, you'll push it again. The second button is for a light. If you look inside here, you can actually see that there's a light. It's a red light. We don't really use it, but if you want a light on, you've got it. And then the last two buttons are obvious, up and down for the temperature. So you just set the temperature that you want. It'll show the display what you want for a moment. So let's say you want to heat it up to 104. It'll show you 104. And a few seconds later, it should show you what the actual temperature is, which is 103. So that's that control. Down below, in the event that any power goes out, I'll show you this panel. It lifts up here. Sticking a little more than
Poorly.
it usually does.
Lifts up poorly.
Okay. I think it's just swollen from being wet. Down here is where the actual power unit is. So if you look here, you can see that the heater's on. If the power's gone off, you'll need to reset these buttons just like you do any other kind of GFI. There's a test button and a reset. So if it were off, then it would reset. You just push the black button, push the red button, it'll start up again. But then you'll get a flashing temperature that tells you that it hasn't actually been set, and it defaults somewhere in the 50s. So you'll want to reset the temperature again to what the temperature that you actually want it to be. That should be good to go. I'm going to leave this at 100 for now. It usually typically also heats up roughly, we figure roughly a degree every 10 minutes. So let's say it's at 100 degrees and you want to get it to 104, move it up to 104, about 40 minutes later it should be to where you want it. Close this up. Okay, next thing I'll show you is how to treat it. We're going to keep the chemicals here in the shed. Okay, all the chemicals are here on the top shelf. The main one you need to know about is the Brom tabs, and you can also refill it with the granule powder. These tablets, I'll show you what these look like. They're actually made to go in a certain kind of feeder. We normally just throw in a handful of these. I'd probably say about twice as many. So maybe 6 or 7 of these I'd throw in roughly every other time that you get in the hot tub. And if you put these things in, you want to let the chemicals sit for probably a good 20-30 minutes before you get in. Okay. And then there's 2 other main things that you'll use to treat it. Spa down, to bring the pH level down. I usually just use a cap full of it. Or baking soda, and I probably use a half cup to a cup of this, depending on what it needs. To bring the pH up. So this spa down, spa up. And that's all based on this little thing right here, which is the tester. And this will tell you what you actually need. We'll go out and test in just a moment. Just these last 2 things, if you do decide to clean the filter, I'll show you how to do that. And if you want some kind of fragrance in there, this is coconut mango. 1 cap full is enough. and it's just kind of nice to have. Okay, so to test this, you generally want to make sure that the water's not running, that you haven't recently treated it, so that you can get a real and accurate reading. Just pull one strip out, dip it in quickly, and then pull it out. Then right away you'll want to just basically compare it and see where it falls on this chart. Now if you look up here, it'll give you an ideal of what it ought to be. So you want to be in the ideal range on things. It says that it's 2 to, so you don't worry about the hardness. Let's look at free chlorine. Free chlorine is basically how much bromine is in there. And it says that we should have, for bromine in the spa, ideal is 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 for bromine. I'd say that's about right. It's about where it needs to be. The pH level ought to be about 7.5. You can see it should be no lower than 7.2 or higher than 7.8. So the pH level, I'd say is about 7.2, 7.5, so we're good there. The alkalinity is roughly the same as the pH. Looks like we're in the right range. It's about 80. Range should be 80 to 120. And the last one you can't really treat it for, but it is an indication of things, is cyanuric acid. And that's 0, and it says ideal is 30 to 50, so maybe it falls in there. So it's good. It doesn't need to be treated right now. If the pH had been high, I would have added spa down. And if the pH had been low, I would have added spa up or baking soda. So that's basically it as far as the treating goes. One final thing, if you do decide to do the filter.
How often should they treat it? Or test it, I'm sorry.
I would test it basically every time before you plan to get in it. So why don't you go ahead and come around and I'll flip this cover the other way. So the filter. Okay. The filter is actually down in here, and there's a little thing that if we twist this to the left, it lines up a flat edge, and then you can pull this assembly out. You can see in here there's some pine needles. This usually catches the bigger stuff, so that's not to worry about. Then if you just reach straight down, you can pull out the filter. Okay? And this filter is probably good for a while. If you look inside, you can see that there's some dust and dirt and grime and whatever else. It's probably due to be treated sometime in the near future, depending on how heavily it gets used. All you need to do is put it in a bucket. There's a bucket in the tool shed. Just put it in a bucket, submerged with water, and you'll want to have mixed in. There's something on the top shelf called filter cleaner. Just put in half that bottle, half to the full bottle, whatever you prefer. Put it in there with the water, let it soak overnight, and then be sure to just rinse this out with the hose. And then you can just put it back in, and all you have to do is drop it in. It doesn't have any kind of special mounting or anything, other than just make sure this top piece goes in, and you lock that properly. That's it. If you need to add water, the hose is over here, and just needs to be attached underneath there. It's unhooked now because it's cold. But just hook that up and add more water if you like. And that's basically it. Okay, you just push stop.